Tune in.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slams it down.
Catch your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back, deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We move into the final hour of trading with stocks at or near records. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all advancing. Technology shares climbing, following upbeat earnings. Also after the U.S. and France struck a deal on digital taxation. NASDAQ heading for a record. S&P 500 index at a record right now, climbing after France agreed to delay collecting a tax on multinational digital companies. S&P 500 index up 7 at 33.29. That's a gain of 0.2%. The Dow up 40, higher by 0.1%, and NASDAQ up 41 at 94.12, a gain there of 0.4%. 10 years up 230 seconds. Yield on this Wednesday 1.76%. Gold is down 28 cents the ounce now at $15.57, a drop of less than 0.1%. A little change there. West Texas Intermediate crude oil down 2.8%, 56.76 a barrel. Brent down 2.1% at 63.23. The World Economic Forum underway in Davos, Switzerland. Bloomberg Radio and Television are there, and we caught up with Bob Prince, Co-Chief Investment Officer of Bridgewater Associates, who talked about the Federal Reserve along with the interest rate backdrop.
We're in a situation today where, with interest rates close to zero and secular deflationary forces, you're not going to get a tightening of monetary policy. They learned that lesson last year, got the unintended effects of that. You're not going to get a tightening, and one of the reasons you're not going to get a tightening is because they can't ease.
Tesla shares continue to advance, up another 3.7%. Tesla's market value climbed above Volkswagen's for the first time to more than $100 billion, a threshold that will trigger a huge payout for Elon Musk if he can sustain that feat for months. Burger King cutting the price of its faux meat burger as sales start to dip following last year's introduction. Carroll's Restaurant Group, which is the biggest Burger King franchisee in the U.S., says sales tapered off to about 28 Impossible Whoppers daily per store, down from 32 previously. Recapping stocks higher, S&P up 6. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
You guys think I'm crazy, but I'm here on Twitter, and apparently Planters announced that Mr. Peanut has died at the age of 104 after a heroic act.
What?
No, Mr. Peanut.
You know what? You are playing into Big Peanut right now. This is what they want you to
Planters,
do.
They're a legitimate company.
I know, Big Peanut.
Their spokesnut has been around for 104 years. He's going to no longer represent the brand following the mascot's sudden passing.
On behalf of Bloomberg Business Week, I want to apologize to all of our listeners and viewers for bringing you that news.
I think this stunt might have something to do with the Super Bowl. Which kind of tees up where we're going to be next week, Miami. See, it's all.
Oh, I see.
Not
okay.
all is for naught.
No, not at all. I do want to bring one headline, which will be interesting to those of us who are on TikTok or have kids who are on TikTok.
Yes.
Mine is the latter situation. ByteDance, which of course is the owner of TikTok, seeking a new CEO for its TikTok business. So that's going to be a pretty sought after job. Are you on TikTok, Alex Harris?
I'm not on TikTok. I'm too old for TikTok.
Right.
There's some stuff going on.
I wasn't going to say it.
But there's some stuff
okay.
going on with that right now. Weren't they going to kind of sell off that division? So
right.
Because of some, yeah.
Right. And there's been a lot of sort of drama around it. And obviously it was a non-Chinese company that was bought by a Chinese owner, and sort of how it plays in the global media landscape is important. But it is a phenomenon. That voice you heard was Alex Harris, bond reporter for Bloomberg. She's in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio. Andrew Husby, U.S. economist for Bloomberg Economics, big TikTok user. He's here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio as well. So what do we want to ask these guys about?
I'm a little shell-shocked.
No.
I like what you did there, Carol.
I'm going to apologize again. This time just straight up for Carol Masser.
I'll let go for a little while.
Alex Harris, the one thing that everyone's talking about today, or that caught your attention as you looked around Bond World?
Oh, gosh. Aside from how we're still stuck in this range, I mean, we're still 170 to 190.
Why do you think we're stuck? I mean, what? I know we're stuck, but like, why?
There's nothing fundamental out there that's going to change the landscape.
Because boom and bust is done.
Oh, yeah.
No,
sure.
Bridgewater, right?
No, I saw that, but you saw Carmen Reinhardt's response.
What'd she
was
say?
like, no, it's not done. She's like, we still have these cycles.
I don't think we yet know how this all plays out.
And she said, if you look at the story on the Bloomberg terminal, which I think is still running on the top page, is look, she's like, equities is the spot to watch. And that's kind of, it leads back into what, people have been saying, which is you have to watch the inflation of the risk assets, which is what has been happening over the last decade. And what even now as, the Fed is embarking on, so-called not QE, Robin Kaplan warned about just the other week that it's like, hey, like the balance sheet's still expanding and, this is having an impact on risk assets. So
she says we're in a sweet spot.
Yeah, she does. But then you got to.
And she's normally, right, kind of she'll often have dire warnings out there. So,
I don't know. Part of me's not buying it necessarily because, look, like I think back to the trade deal and we're talking about fundamentals and what's going to shake it. It's like, yes, a deal has been signed diplomatically. That's a good thing.
Right.
But tariffs are still in place. So it's like, how much is this going to affect, growth and what companies decide to do if you still have all these tariffs in place? And then you pivot and you look and we still have these issues with the EU and, a threat of tariffs sort of hangs over that. So, I mean, I'm not totally convinced and I don't think the bond market is either. And that's what we're seeing.
And you're right. She did say we never leave the boom bust cycle. Maybe in 5 years, we'll not be talking about the subprime bubble, but the equity bubble. So we shall see. So come on in on things, Andrew. You're listening to us, and I know you want to comment on Mr. Peanut. But.
Yeah, well, I'll leave that to the experts. I think this does, though, fit with this theme that we've had some elimination of some of the things that have been hanging over the market. But what we haven't seen is either, the focus is turning to implementation of the trade deal, which we've had a number of pieces on the Bloomberg Economics page, basically outlining how much of a stretch this deal will be to actually implement. There are headwinds. There are reasons to think maybe some trade is diverted, which overall leaves the global growth picture relatively the same it was. There are some winners, some losers. And then you look at central bank policy. I think central banks are in sort of a wait-and-see mode on this. And it's going to be tough. As Alex said, it's a kind of a wait-and-see right now. First quarter looks pretty soft in the U.S. And a number of countries, we're waiting to see manufacturing to show a response, and it really just hasn't yet. We wouldn't expect it to quite yet, but sentiment is.
But don't you all wonder how this movie ends? Right here we are 10 years after. No, I'm serious. Like 10 years after the financial crisis, and I do wonder. Here we never thought that we'd still see such a low rate environment globally. We were having a conversation earlier about German bonds. Who would have ever thought negative rates? But here we are, and we can't seem to get out of it.
It's a response to lower potential growth around the world. It's not the same backdrop as we saw in the 90s or even the early 2000s when we really saw this inflection point in response to whether it's demographics or productivity. The big question is where all this productivity is that we see on a day-to-day basis, and whether that's actually showing up in the economic statistics. But lower rates are a reflection of that. They're not wholly manufactured by central banks. Central banks are responding to what is looking like a tougher growth outlook.
Right, and they're the only game in town.
Right.
And let's not even forget when we talk about, it's not just low interest rates, it's accommodative policy. It's it's QE in Europe. It's bond buying in Japan. I mean. Most of the major central banks are in some sort of accommodative policy with bond buying. And so this is the other problem too. And at some point, how this ends is you hope that these central banks just go enough. Like this is not working. And I think what, people really looked at, like the Riksbank came out at the end of 2019 and said, negative interest rates do not work. And this is evidence. And we're moving away from negative rates. And I think you need to see more of that. And maybe you get a little bit more confident here, unless you're holding, you're completely invested in equities, and then you got problems. But
2 things on that. One, you do have the President of the United States, though, saying like negative rates, those seem sort of cool. Like, obviously, he doesn't set central bank policy. The second thing is Carol Master almost had a drink because you almost said Corota. Yeah, she said Bank of Japan.
Drinking. It's one of our favorites.
It's a drinking.
But here's the other thing about what the president said in that
15 seconds?
in that same interview. He also said, I'd like to refinance the debt. But then the Washington Post had that story where he was talking to donors at Mar-a-Lago and just said, budgets don't matter. Debt doesn't matter. Look at what this country's doing. So what can you really believe that comes out of his mouth?
You can believe that maybe Mr. Peanut's gone.
Yes.
Although they're talking about almond propaganda.
Alex Harris, Andrew Husby, thank you so much. Let's get over to Bob Moon. He's got world and national headlines. Hey, Bob.
Jason, as House members turned impeachment prosecutors lay out their case for removing a president who abused his office and covered it up, Senator Lindsey Graham encouraged Trump today to keep it up.
If I were the president, I wouldn't cooperate with these guys at all.
Such are the partisan dividing lines as arguments for President Trump's impeachment get underway. Bloomberg's Irv Chapman is live on Capitol Hill and joins us now with the latest. Irv.
Bob, Adam Schiff, who's leading the House team, played video excerpts of testimony from diplomats involved in the president's actions toward Ukraine, as well as the president's own comments. And he urged the Senate to demand additional first-hand corroboration.
The full and complete story is within your power to request. As you consider the evidence we present to you, ask yourselves whether the documents and witnesses that have been denied by the president's complete and unprecedented obstruction could shed more light on this critical topic.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, whose diplomats gave damaging testimony, including that he was in the loop, said if legally required, he'd agree to testify. Bob?
Irv Chapman live on Capitol Hill. Thank you. Secretary Pompeo says the U.S. is committed to supporting Ukraine and stamping out corruption in the country, denying that President Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, oversaw a shadow foreign policy toward the country.
Our policy with respect to Ukraine has been set on the fundamental principles of reducing the footprint of corruption and helping the Ukrainian people build up a democracy while under threat from the Russians in the east and southeast.
Pompeo spoke exclusively to Bloomberg's Kevin Cirilli. Global News 24 hours a day on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. I'm Bob Moon.
Europe was born about 200 million years ago when the supercontinent Pangaea began breaking apart. And today,
Germany already is in a much weaker position.
There's a lot of problems building up there for your country.
change happens faster now.
How are you reading Euro stocks at the moment?
Keep up.
The CEO speaking exclusively to Bloomberg.
Bloomberg Daybreak Europe. Weekdays at 1 a.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
What if you could keep the top economic experts in a conference room next to your office without having to feed them?
Do we need better optics? Do we need some substance? Do CEOs care about ESG?
We have seen quite a lot of stimulus pumped into the system already.
It's the biggest warning yet about the financial risks of climate change.
Now, there are more ways to hear us. Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business, Radio.com, and iHeartRadio apps, and at BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
Are you interested in...
I used to be a bit of a rubbish sleeper. I'd toss and turn all night. And somehow I could never find the comfy bit of the mattress. It was a proper nightmare. That's what brought me here. Testing mattresses in the Witch Test Lab. We use a custom-made barrel rolling machine to simulate a decade's worth of use. And the mattresses that perform best are the only ones we recommend for your bedroom.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
Hello, I'm your captain for today's Virgin Atlantic flight. Please drop everything and pay close attention to the following announcement. The sail is now on. Our crew are ready to take your bags and stresses away. The cocktails are ready to serve, the movies are loaded, and we're all set for takeoff to the Caribbean. So, take your seat in our award-winning economy class. We're ready to go when you are.
The Virgin Atlantic sail. Fly amazing for less. For more details, visit virginatlantic.com.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught, it is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
Start hearing more of what you want. Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations, live commercial-free news, and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow and TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Want to know a quick, easy way to see if your favorite podcasts have a new episode available? Just go to the home screen on your TuneIn app and see the latest editions under the Your New Episode section. Happy listening.
Track what's happening in the markets and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
Elite advisory firms rely on BNY Mellon's Pershing to meet the needs of their most complex clients. Karen Novak, Chief Operating Officer at Pershing Advisor Solutions, explains how.
At BNY Mellon's Pershing, we bring customized insights and strategies to help you grow your advisory business and stay on the leading edge. We can support the needs of your most sophisticated clients with a full range of investment and wealth management solutions, from access to private banking to consolidated bank and brokerage custody. Learn why so many of the largest advisory firms turn to us for the financial strength and high-touch service that BNY Mellon's Pershing can provide. Are you well positioned to stand out from your competition?
Learn more at Pershing.com or call 800-445-4467. Brokerage custody provided by Pershing LLC and other services provided by Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC. Both members of FINRA and SIPC. Private banking and bank custody provided by BNY Mellon NA. Member FDIC.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ are all advancing right now. We have got the S&P higher, a little change. But for more, let's head right over to the first word breaking news desk for today's afternoon call. Here he is, Bill Maloney.
And good afternoon, Charlie. U.S. stocks trading well off their session highs, with the Dow up just 6 points, S&P's gained 2, and NASDAQ rises by 17. Early on, the Dow was up 124. The U.S. 10-year yield at 1.77%. Gold is trading little change. Small caps gain a point, and 7 of the main 11 S&P sectors still trading higher, led by gains in tech and the utilities. Energy, industrials, real estate, and materials fell. Nasdaq Biotech's gained 3 points. Transports dropped 58, semis are up 14, and the VIX is down by 1%. Leaders to the upside in the Dow, Intel, IBM, and Apple, while Dow Inc., Boeing, and Caterpillar led to the downside. After earnings, IBM rose 3%, Netflix fell 2.8%, and Northern Trust dropped 4%. In other news, Boeing's new CEO sees 737 MAX production resuming in the spring, and Tesla hit $100 billion in market cap. Wrapping things up, some of the names pointing after the bell tonight include Citrix and Texas Instruments. Live from the First Breaking News Desk, I'm Bill Maloney. Charlie.
Okay, I thank you very much, Bill. And to hear live breaking news over your Bloomberg Type Squawk SQUAWK on your terminal. I'm Charlie Pelleton. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. So certainly one of the big stories that continues to be on everyone's radar is about the respiratory virus over in China. China ramping up its efforts to contain it. The virus so far killing at least 17 people, infecting hundreds as the outbreak has spread beyond Asia. China state broadcaster CCTV heard Charlie talking about this earlier, reporting that the death toll has nearly doubled from a previous total, as I mentioned, of 9. And there were 2 preliminary positive reports of this virus in Hong Kong, another diagnosis in the U.S., patients under examination in Mexico and Russia. So while it feels somewhat contained, we are hearing more and more about the spread. Let's get the latest on this. Bloomberg News health science and medical technology reporter Michelle Cortez joining us on the phone from Minneapolis. So Michelle, how should we as investors view this? And I don't mean to be so clinical about it, but we have seen it impact the market. So is it contained? Are we getting a better control of it? What are you hearing?
It is very much a situation that's in flux. We really don't know, especially in the beginning. People are reporting out what's happening, and the numbers are increasing dramatically every time we talk to anybody in China or public health officials speak out. The good news is it doesn't look like it's going to be as severe as SARS or maybe even MERS or maybe even the seasonal flu. On the other hand, it's so early and the case rates are increasing so quickly, there's no guarantees.
And Michelle, one of the things that some of our guests were saying earlier on in the show is that there was a sense, as we've talked to investors, that people are sort of on it, that this wasn't allowed to spread literally or figuratively. Even the sort of the hysteria is probably not the right word, but, this notion of, maybe the institutions are sort of doing the things they're supposed to do. You know this better than we do. What's your sense of the response and the response time here?
Well, you're absolutely correct. China has been so forthright, especially in comparison with the SARS outbreak from 2002 and 2003. The important thing for investors to keep in mind is, of course, it is not the actual severity of the outbreak itself. It's the response that everyone takes in order to contain it. So we're seeing, just breaking news right now, Wuhan has shut everything down. They're not letting people in and out of the city. They're not letting people on buses. You can't fly out. They've shut it all down. So if they can do that, and that's 11 million people, it's not small, but that's going to affect certainly commerce there. If that spreads within China, then that's where you're starting to get your economic hit coming from. On the flip side, there are no signs from the public health piece that things are happening. We're not seeing human-to-human transition in the second and third and fourth situations, right? So it's not like we're seeing someone who's sick who then gets their healthcare worker sick and then their healthcare worker gets someone sick. It's very much more contained than that currently, and the virus seems to be not mutating an awful lot, so that's also good. But again, from the business perspective, they're just now starting to shut things down, and we don't know how far that's going to go.
Well, and I think we all, can remember SARS, right? And what was it? I think killed 800 people in a short period of time, just a few months. So I think that's our reference point. Safe to say, one would hope that the world has learned something by that, and that we are quickly, running to contain this. I mean, there is a difference
Right. Well, there's a significant difference. I mean, the situation with SARS is people didn't know what to do. Yeah. Not only do we know what to do, and they're taking that action quickly. I mean, there was a study in the New England Journal of Medicine that just one person on an airplane with SARS infected 19 other people around them just in one flight. Now they're not letting people get on a plane if you have the fever. So, so yes, we're definitely much better than we were.
Just quickly, there's a story on the Bloomberg too that talks about a potential vaccine to prevent the spreading of the virus. Maybe moving into early stage human testing in the next 3 months. This is from the NIH, their infectious disease chief. We're not quite there. It takes some time, but at some point we might have a way of controlling this.
Absolutely true. Another thing that's very interesting, people are moving aggressively into that. Moderna is the company that's working on NIH with that, but there's other companies as well. So that is a positive, negative thing. When these bad things happen in our world, we do get an infusion of interest and effort and money into some of these public health efforts like ramping up vaccines, and we are starting to see that. But early days, that's first studies in man in 3 months. It'll take years before it actually is widely available.
Great context. Thank you so much. Michelle Cortez, health science and medical technology reporter for Bloomberg, joining us on the phone from Minneapolis.
I was just noticing on Twitter, somebody pointing this out. We've got stocks taking a leg down, and we're now at our lows of the session. In fact, we're call it flat on the S&P 500, just down 0.5 point. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down about 17 points, and the Nasdaq has lost its gain as well. It's holding on to about a 5-point gain, but it's interesting to see that we have definitely pulled off our highs of the session. So looking for some news, but we are definitely taking a leg down. So I do wonder what is impacting the trade here.
It seemed to turn down. We're going to look into what may be underneath that, especially as we get you to the close of trading here. But as Carol said, all the major indices really took a leg down, even tech, which had been leading the way up. So we will continue to monitor that. And coming up, we are also
going to talk about deal flow or possible deal flow, right?
Exactly. Yeah, Liberty Global potentially getting into the business of Univision.
John Malone's always up to something.
I know, and Univision has been such an interesting study to look at. Private equity backed, big takeout at the height of the LBO boom. So we're going to get into that and much more in the next half hour before the markets close here in the U.S. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks are clinging to narrow gains in the final hour. Only the Nasdaq remains on track to set a new high. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 27, the S&P 500 up 5, the Nasdaq Composite up 30. Boeing CEO says he expects production of the 737 MAX to resume within a few months, even as the plane awaits regulatory approval to fly again. It comes a day after Boeing said it doesn't expect the jet to be cleared for service until mid-year. Burger King is cutting the price of its Impossible Whopper as sales begin to dip. The sandwich was recently added to the chain's 2 for $6 discount menu on a temporary basis that compares to the previous suggested price of $5.59. Coming up after the bell, Texas Instruments reports its fourth quarter results. Analysts say it could see its worst year-over-year revenue decline in recent history, with improvements expected for the coming year. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. That's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
The Bloomberg Business of Sports podcast.
How did the Yankees become this mega valuable team?
Where the money is flowing inside sports around the globe.
From the marketing perspective, where are the dollars spent?
From union heads to team owners, Scott Soshnick and Michael Barr speak to the names that power this multi-billion-dollar industry.
Boston Red Sox CEO Sam Kennedy.
National Hockey League Commissioner Gary Bettman.
Bloomberg Business of Sports. Listen today on Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Are you interested in...
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded? Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre. so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Whew, that was a big day. But there's another big day ahead. Tomorrow is a blank page, and you're a best-selling author. So turn that page and get writing.
Or leave the motivation to Vitality. With our life insurance, you could save up to 40% on a Garmin fitness watch to help you keep an eye on your activity levels. Now that's real motivation. Search Vitality Life. Life's better with Vitality. Variable discount. Postage and packaging terms and conditions apply.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn. When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow and TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Want to know a quick, easy way to see if your favorite podcasts have a new episode available? Just go to the home screen on your TuneIn app and see the latest editions under the Your New Episode section. Happy listening.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slams it down.
Catch your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back, deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
You might already know that TuneIn allows you to listen to all the pro sports leagues wherever you go. But did you know TuneIn is also home to the wide world of college sports?
Open three, DeAndre Hunter got it! Handoff Carruthers, big hole right side. He leaps and he surges in. Touchdown.
From live college football, basketball, and baseball games to podcasts and coaches shows fueling your love for the game in your school. And the best part is, it's all free. Search college sports to find your team or league.
Got it.
Did
I
you?
got it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I see what you're doing there.
I see you.
All right, let's see what's going on when it comes to your top business stories, and also really a look at trading, because Charlie Pellet, we are well off our lows here.
We certainly are. At 28 minutes to go, as a matter of fact, we saw the S&P dip into negative territory just a couple of minutes ago, but right now holding on to a 3-point gain on the S&P, up by just about 0.1%. We've got the Dow Jones Industrial Average up by 15. That is a gain of less than 0.1%. And NASDAQ pushing higher, up by 20 points, a gain there of 0.2%. A record for NASDAQ, anything above 93.88. Right now we've got NASDAQ at 93.91. So looking like a higher close, indeed a record perhaps for NASDAQ, but 28 minutes to go. West Texas Intermediate crude oil down 2.9%, 56.67 a barrel. The 10-year up 230 seconds, yield 1.76%. And gold higher, little changed, up now by 8 cents the ounce. World Economic Forum is underway in Davos, Switzerland. Bloomberg Radio and Television are there. And this morning we caught up with James Gorman, Chairman and CEO of Morgan Stanley, who talked about the Federal Reserve and the interest rate backdrop.
The Fed only has 2 real tools that they're working with at the moment, and they've pretty much exhausted the rates. So that's the reality. So they've only got the balance sheet that they're working with, and it is a form of QE. I mean, it has been subsidizing prices. It's been helping the markets along, and they've done it for good reason. I mean, when they raised rates, 12, 14 months ago, the markets took a scare. So I think the Fed is just bringing things back in line.
And we'll have more with James Gorman coming up right here on Bloomberg Business Week at 5:18 Wall Street time. Netflix facing the toughest year in its history, but in terms of new streaming competition, but the company says it is ready. Netflix, after last night's earnings report, now down by 3.9%. Also after earnings, shares of IBM
rallying now up by 3%. Recapping, stocks higher, S&P up 3, a gain of 0.1%. I'm Charlie Pellett, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thanks a lot. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio.
It is time for the chart of the day. I don't have a clue, so I'm just going to turn it over to Bloomberg's.
Would you like a hint?
Is that the Eagles?
You're on to something.
So is it Don Henley?
Not exactly. Joe Walsh.
Joe Walsh. Oh, Joe Walsh.
Absolutely.
Supposed to be, I think, the love of life of Stevie Nicks, or vice versa.
Something like that.
I'm just saying.
All I know is he's from New Jersey. It can't be all bad.
All right.
In any case, the reason I picked that song Time Out is because the chart has a headline that says time for a timeout, and it's in reference to what's going on with technology stocks. You know, Tony Dwyer, who's the chief market strategist at Canaccord Genuity, kind of pulled in the horns, as he put it, on stocks in general and technology shares in particular. And the reason he did it, he tracks this indicator of relative strength. In other words, looking at, in this case, the S&P 500 Information Technology Index, you know, weekly closes relative to trading ranges. It's, you know, relative strength index is what we're talking about.
So RSI.
Right, RSI. We usually talk about 14 days.
Right.
He's looking at 14 weeks. It kind of gets you to the same place in terms of trying to figure out when, you know, there's been too much too soon in terms of buying. And the way he sees it, that's where we are now. And it's understandable. You run the numbers on a Bloomberg terminal, you find out that the latest reading, so as of Friday, was about 82.5. And bear in mind that if you're at 70 or above, you know, that's in general what you would consider overbought. If you're a chart watcher, you know, a sign that something may be poised to fall. And that 82.5 was the highest reading since August 1997. You know what's going on back then, right? We were in the middle of that technology-driven bull market that turned into an internet bubble. In any case, he figures at least a temporary correction, as he put it, is in order for those shares and therefore for stocks more generally, because tech stocks have been leaders. If you want to know more, folks, send me an email. I'll get you the chart, the explanation that goes with it, and everything I do going forward. The email address is dwilson@bloomberg.net. That's dwilson@bloomberg.net.
I just have to say, though, as that index has hovered near the overbought position, I mean, it goes down a little bit and goes right back up. So, I mean, it really stays in that overbought position, even though everybody says it's overbought.
Right. That's why
it doesn't correct significantly.
It's temporary.
Yeah.
At the very least, you can't expect these stocks to go up in a straight line.
All right, Dave Wilson, thank you so much. We'll see you after the close for your stock. Let's turn now quickly to Leanna Baker, team leader for deals here in the U.S. A scoop around Liberty Global Hemisphere, looking at Univision. This has been a much watched target in some ways, right?
This has been on the block for 5-10 years.
Amazing.
It was acquired in 2007 at the height of the buyout bubble by several private equity firms, Madison Dearborn, THL, Chaim Saban's firm. They've been trying to exit for a while.
All right, so tell us what's being considered or what John Malone is looking to do. This is a guy who is, you know, if anybody knows anything about the media industry, it's this guy.
Would you say he's acquisitive?
He's acquisitive, but he also, the structuring of his deals are always complicated, interesting. It's never kind of a straight line.
We even had some issues with that today. We weren't sure which Liberty was bidding on it. We had originally reported Liberty Media. We found out later it was Liberty Global, and they sent us a statement confirming that their venture arm is the one looking to partner on this bid.
And what's attractive about Univision? As you say, it's been on the block for a long time, owing in part to the fact that it's got a lot of debt, owing to that leveraged buyout that you referenced, going back to the LBO boom. What exactly is someone buying here?
It's really slimmed down over the years, and it just focuses on Spanish broadcast. It has live sports. It still has people tuning in to live TV, which is attractive if you're in advertising. They also work with the cable operators. So it's a real company. They also have a radio business. So you could probably squeeze a lot of cash out of this if you operate it properly.
Help me out, too, because I feel like for a long time we've done a couple stories in the magazine, too, that just talks about the Latin community, right? And as a consumer base, a consumer, consuming base, especially when it comes to media, that hasn't been tapped to its full potential. So Univision plays right into that.
Definitely. And as we roll into an election year, there is a lot of advertising that pours into broadcasters in that time. So I would imagine Univision could, recoup some dollars there.
Because in many ways here in the U.S., it's essentially a duopoly, right, between Univision and Telemundo when you talk about sort of the share of audience that is geared toward the Spanish language sector, right?
What's also interesting, though, is that Hemisphere, the partner here with Liberty, they're one of the biggest broadcasters in Puerto Rico. So there's some connections there. They have a different network. So I think there are some synergies.
Right.
But it's a smaller company, only $500 million. It's private equity backed as well, even though it's publicly traded. So maybe Malone is trying to
pull something off here. We know that.
Latin American conglomerate.
Exactly. All right, Leanna Baker, team leader for deals here in the U.S. for Bloomberg. Nice work on this story. Let's head over to Bob Moon, World National News. Hey, Bob.
Jason, like it or not, President Trump claims he answers to no one, not even the elected representatives of the people. Is this really what you want the American president to be? That question today to U.S. senators, a number of whom have made it clear they've already made up their minds that Trump's actions in Ukraine are okay with them.
The president and his allies have offered no explanation for this effort. Except the president can abuse his office all he likes, and there's nothing you can do about it.
House members turned impeachment prosecutors have started making their case for removing Trump from office. Right now, there's a brief break before more of the case is heard. Bloomberg's Irv Chapman brings us up to the moment now, live on Capitol Hill. Irv.
Bob, Chairman Adam Schiff spoke for more than 2 hours, offering a play-by-play description of the president's actions toward Ukraine, based on testimony by diplomats and officials who observed it.
Despite these efforts to obstruct our inquiry, the House of Representatives uncovered overwhelming evidence related to the president's misconduct through interviews with 17 witnesses. Many of these witnesses bravely defied White House orders not to comply, and were it not for them, we may never have known of the president's scheme.
Schiff's colleagues will next take up the supposition that President Trump will continue to misuse the power of his office to win re-election unless impeachment removes him first. Bob?
Irv Chapman live on Capitol Hill. Thank you. The Trump administration is approving a right-of-way allowing the Keystone XL oil sands pipeline to be built across U.S. land. Federal officials say Interior Secretary David Bernhardt will sign the approval today. Global news, 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. I'm Bob Moon.
Why has J.D. Power ranked Commonwealth Financial Network #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms for the 6th straight time? We think it comes down to one thing: you. Because it's your input and feedback that keeps us focused on what's most important to you and your clients, and continually pushes us to be the best we can be. Maybe that's why we receive top marks in every category of the J.D. Power 2019 Advisor Satisfaction Survey. They named us #1 in client support, #1 in firm leadership, #1 in operational support, #1 in compensation, #1 in professional development support, and #1 in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
25 years ago, NJIT graduate Dick Sweeney co-founded Keurig Green Mountain, a company whose incredible innovations changed the way the world brews a cup of coffee. Today, he lectures widely on business leadership and is a strong advocate for NJIT's work to combine business education with the power of STEM.
NJIT is definitely fostering the innovative thinking for budding entrepreneurs simply because that's the world we live in. NJIT is producing students that have been trained, educated, and given the business acumen to be a contributor to a company. The distinct mission is to develop great STEM scholars. The attributes I've always looked for in team members are heart, smarts, guts, and luck. So we want people with passion, intelligence, courage, and never discount luck. The student coming out of NJIT has experienced all of that.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
In-depth analysis.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded. Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
On this week's On the Media, we peel away the many layers of the Warren Sanders sexism sideshow.
The first layer is, can we acknowledge that in a country that has only elected male presidents throughout its history, that gender is a factor?
Also, depressed by politics? We have a plan for that. Listen to On the Media from WNYC. Listen to the On the Media podcast on TuneIn today.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slammed it down. Catch your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Follow
Bayless.
and TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade. Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the Favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
You might already know that TuneIn allows you to listen to all the pro sports leagues wherever you go. But did you know TuneIn is also home to the wide world of college sports?
Open three, DeAndre Hunter got it! Handoff Carruthers, big hole right side. He leaps and he surges in, touchdown!
From live college football, basketball, and baseball games to podcasts and coaches shows fueling your love for the game in your school. And the best part is, it's all free. Search college sports to find your team or league.
On the goal line, scores! And takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
And a move, and a shot, they score!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
And disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of your religion, or your race, or because you have children, or a disability.
It's so wrong. Yes, but who has the power to stop this?
You do. Each of us has the power. The law is on your side. It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
To learn more, visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We've got 13 minutes to go ahead of the closing bell with the Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ. Yes, they're all higher, but unlikely we'll see records for the S&P today. Up 2 points at 33.23. That's a gain of 0.1%. NASDAQ spent much of the session in record territory. It is pulling back. It is up 17 now, a gain of 0.2%. NASDAQ right now, 93.88. The record for NASDAQ would be 93.88.94. We've got the Dow up 9. Again, a little change there, up less than 0.1%. 10 years up 230 seconds, yield 1.76%. Gold, little changed, up 36 cents the ounce at $15.58. West Texas Intermediate crude down 2.9%, $56.69 a barrel. Brent down 2.2%, $63.17. Again, recapping here, S&P 500 index up 3, a gain of 0.1%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
I'm driving in my car. I turn on the radio.
Yeah, but you let me drive.
Oh, no. Who's gonna drive you home? Honey, please, I'll do the driving. Drive on. Excuse me, I want to drive. Just drive, baby.
It's the question that drives us.
This is the Drive to the Close.
That funky music will drive us till the dawn.
On Bloomberg Radio.
It is time for the Drive to the Close. Oliver Portia is back with us, Chief Market Strategist at Bruderman Asset Management. Over $1.6 billion in assets under management, based in Connecticut, right?
Well, Midtown New York, actually. I live in Connecticut.
You live in Connecticut, based in New York.
He's a Connecticutian, but he comes here.
Big word on Bloomberg Radio.
In our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio in New York. Yeah, we kind of like those big words occasionally. Well, all right, I'm going to ask you, since you live in Connecticut real estate, we've been talking about the stories. It's been having a tough time. Yes. You gave me this evil look.
Oh, my Lord. I bought my house in 2004, and it's worth less today than it was in 2004 by significant margin.
Kidding.
And it's not because I bought stupidly. Look, I think it's going to be ebb and flow. Right now, you're still going through the shock of GE having moved out, in particular in Fairfield, which is where I live.
Right.
You've got the tax situation. You've got the fiscal state of the state that's not particularly great, although it has improved significantly in the last couple of years in terms of reserves and everything else. Look, real estate has always been a long-term proposition. I know we've gone through cycles of flipping homes, and we know where that ended in 2007, 2008.
Right.
So I'm not overly concerned about it on a long-term basis. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to, can the state, like any state, get businesses to come in, get investment going, and get people to want to live there. I think they've got plenty of people who want to live there. It's a question of affordability and jobs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It does come down to that, right? That's the mix. Thank you for doing that. I was just curious, since we've been talking a lot about it. Hey, let's also talk about the market. You walked in and we're off to a strong start. And I'm like, wait a minute, do you buy it? I mean, you think the fundamentals are there, Oliver?
I think they're generally there, yes. Okay. And I say that for a couple of reasons. Number one, while everybody likes to talk at how well the market stocks did in 2019, if you go back to October 1st, the S&P is only about 10% higher. So you have to take into account that sharp dip that we saw in the fourth quarter of 2018. Also, a lot of the headwinds that we faced going into 2019 are now gone or about to be gone. Trade is looking pretty stable with regards to USMCA having been done, as well as the phase one trade deal with China. It's unlikely that you're going to see a lot of more hard trade talk out of the administration, or certainly not action against Europe during the election year, because they just don't want to rattle that cage. The Fed has effectively told us, hey, we're standing pat. We're not planning on doing anything this year, which incidentally also falls in line with what they like to do during election years. They don't like to be particularly active in election years, right? And you've got an economy that's kind of puttering along. So you could take all of those things along with what's presumed to be probably somewhere around 5, 6, 7% earnings growth for the year, because comparables are going to get so much easier this year than they were last year.
Right.
And there's reason for optimism.
What was earnings growth by the end of last year? What did we see last year? What were the numbers?
I think all in, we saw a drop of about 2% year over year.
And yet the market rallied.
Yeah, again, forward expectations, right?
Yeah.
And so the expectation, and what you saw really is a strong rebound in the first quarter of 2019, nothing in the second and third quarter, and then another 10% rally in the fourth quarter as trade, Brexit, and interest rates became fairly clear towards this year. So there are fundamental justifications.
All right, so let's talk about some names that you like in this current environment. Adobe is an interesting one to me, especially because the cloud, they're sort of playing in there. We talk about the cloud so much, but usually in the context of the big names, the Amazons, the Googles, and more recently, yesterday and today, IBM with Red Hat. Talk about Adobe in that context.
Well, Adobe to us has really been successful at moving to a subscription model, which carries a higher multiple and profitability on a long-term basis. They've become a one-stop shop for marketing, right? You can pretty much do everything with the Adobe suite of applications. And so when we look at that, we think that there's a tremendous amount of potential. And in particular, while they've underperformed and it's been challenging, their enterprise software has got a lot of upside potential. So we like the stock and we think it's a category winner.
This stock is up over 1,000% since the end of 2011. 1,000%. Just year after year after year after gains.
And we prefer buying strong companies that are up sharply than companies that we think are undervalued because something went wrong. Right?
Wait, say that again?
We'd prefer to buy in an up market like we've seen over the last decade.
Right.
We would much rather pay and own a strong company that's performed very, very well than a company that we think might be undervalued because something's gone wrong.
So forward-looking PE of 36 doesn't worry you?
It does not, because as long as the growth is delivered, then we're in good shape.
Yeah, this is just, as you say, just you look back to even the beginning of 2019, just a nice little steady rise up. Talk to us about Bristol-Myers Squibb, obviously a deal maker in some ways. Is that what makes this a more attractive stock?
Yes, in many ways it does. So a couple of things. If you think about healthcare companies as a whole, they have a huge problem as a sector, which is effectively declining revenues and profits because so much stuff is coming off patent.
Right.
That holds true for the industry. Some of them are executing better than others. In the case of Bristol-Myers Squibb, they bought Celgene, and so they've effectively M&A'd their way out of their declining earnings and revenues. And we think that it's a strong management team. We like the balance sheet. We like the outlook. We think they're going to do more strategic acquisitions. And as a result, we see a pretty strong path in the industry.
Right. And then you've got a dividend, almost 2.7% on top of it all. Intuitive Surgical, ticker ISRG, for those who might have forgotten. We're talking about robotic surgery?
Robotic surgery, which is the wave of the future. Every year when you look at that industry, more and more hospitals and now even outpatient services.
How much is going on already?
An enormous amount, but it's still just scratching the surface. And Intuitive is 10 years ahead of their nearest competitor in terms of their technology. So again, if you believe that that's going to continue to grow, which we certainly do, and be part of the landscape, then you want to own the category killer, and that's Intuitive right now.
Revenues up 19% year over year. Earnings growth of about 5.6% year over year.
Yeah.
All right, 30 seconds left.
More. Yeah.
Biggest worry about this market right now?
You don't sound worried.
Well, the biggest worry is that economic data continues to deteriorate, and so that we get into kind of April, May with very weak data, and the 2 to 3% GDP growth that is our base assumption doesn't come true and gets a one handle. That will be problematic for investors.
Would the Fed maybe move then?
I doubt it.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to see low ones or below one for the Fed to move.
Especially in an election year, it feels like. All right, Oliver Portia is Chief Market Strategist for Bruderman Asset Management up there in Connecticut. Gave us some good context on that. He's here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio. Today, some really interesting ideas as we move deeper into 2020.
Love talking names. Just about 3.5 minutes left in today's trading session. Bouncing around here, but just coming off our lows. So up about 3.5 points on the S&P 500. Dow, a gain of about 19. Call it unchanged on the day. Same for the S&P. NASDAQ up almost 0.2% for a 17-point gain. Don't go anywhere. We've got the closing numbers on Wall Street in just a moment.
Business is about...
I've always always loved a kitchen experiment, especially smoothies. I've blended all sorts of mad combinations. Strawberry and charcoal, broccoli and chocolate. Not my best, that. But when I test blenders in the Witch Lab, it's not about flavour, it's about performance. Our tests use proper tough stuff, hard ice, strong veg, rough nuts. And the blenders that can hack it are the only ones we recommend for your kitchen.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
Want to know a quick, easy way to see if your favorite podcasts have a new episode available? Just go to the home screen on your TuneIn app and see the latest editions under the Your New Episode section. Happy listening.
Along the goal line, Martin scores! He takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Gonna move, hit a shot, face down!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
You might already know that TuneIn allows you to listen to all the pro sports leagues wherever you go. But did you know TuneIn is also home to the wide world of college sports?
Open three, DeAndre Hunter got it! Handoff Carruthers, big hole right side. He leaps and he surges in, touchdown!
From live college football, basketball, and baseball games to podcasts and coaches shows fueling your love for the game in your school. And the best part is, it's all free. Search college sports to find your team or league.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Paletta. An update for the S&P 500 Index, the NASDAQ, the Dow swinging between gains and losses at the close. Folks from Progressive Insurance ringing that closing bell. We've got the Dow lower now by 9 points. S&P eking out a 1-point gain. NASDAQ spending most of the session at a record, but ending the day at 93.83, up 13 points for the NASDAQ Composite Index. That was a gain of just about 0.1%. So stocks erasing gains on concern that a virus that emerged in China could eventually dent economic growth. The S&P 500 Index little changed amid concern that the deadly respiratory illness could spread even as China took steps to contain the outbreak. Technology shares were the best performers. Again, NASDAQ up by 0.1%. Oliver Porsche's chief market strategist at Bruderman Asset Management. Moments ago right here on Bloomberg Business Week, he told us there are reasons for optimism.
It's unlikely that you're going to see a lot of more hard trade talk out of the administration, or certainly not action against Europe during the election year, because they just don't want to rattle that cage. The Fed has effectively told us, hey, we're standing pat, we're not planning on doing anything this year, which incidentally also falls in line with what they like to do during election years. They don't like to be particularly active in election years.
The promise of a vaccine for coronavirus has sparked rallies in a handful of stocks this week, but past pandemics show there may be little to show for drug makers' efforts. Cambridge-based Moderna became the latest stock to get a bump after saying it's working with the National Institutes of Health on a vaccine. Moderna shares advancing today by 4.9%. Boeing's new CEO says he anticipates resuming production of its grounded 737 MAX jet within a few months, even as it awaits final clearance from regulators. Boeing shares down today by 1.4%. Gold little changed, up 78 cents the ounce. Crude oil West Texas Intermediate down 2.9%. S&P up a point. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Move around. Motion creates the motion.
I feel the earth move under my feet.
You move like they do. I've never seen anyone move that fast.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose. Something's called movers and shakers. They cost a little more, but that name cracked me up.
Bloomberg Business Week, Movers and Shakers with Carol Messer and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
Time to take a look at some of the stocks on the move. Already moving a little bit here in the after hours. Shares of Texas Instruments, stock up about 1.8% at this moment. TI, let's get right to the outlook, because maybe that's why the stock perhaps is moving. This is quite a range, as Jason, as you said. First quarter revenue, $3.12 billion to $3.38 billion. The estimate out there is $3.2 billion. It's like, all right, that's a wide dartboard.
Yeah, and I remember from back in the day covering this name with Ian King, you always look for that midpoint, kind of figure it out. Yeah. And it looks like it's certainly in range. The fourth quarter EPS came in a little bit light versus estimates. But as you say, outlook is really what we care about with this name in terms of electronics demand. This is a company that has chips in so many types of electronics.
So the mid-range would be 325, if I'm doing my math correctly. And so the estimate out there is 320. So that's a nickel better. Higher. It's a nickel better, right? So maybe, that's where we're seeing some of the enthusiasm. But listen, in this market,
what did nickel, because we're talking about billions of dollars.
Well, Texas Instruments was up 36% last year, right? And so we've talked about, I'm just going to ignore that.
I know.
But the chip sector really outperformed in a big way. So I think at this point, you've got to deliver on those numbers. You can't disappoint. So if the outlook is promising, that's good. Investors are going to like that.
And to be fair, the stock was up almost 2% today in anticipation maybe of some good numbers. TI was.
Also because of Intel, which reported yesterday after the closing bell, right?
That's exactly right.
So that's tomorrow. Oh, it's reporting tomorrow. Forgive me.
Yeah.
So that stock
is looking ahead. You're thinking ahead, but that stock was up. Intel was up.
Yeah. Okay. So that stock is your third best performer. It's up 3.6% at the close of today's session. And thank you, Paul Brennan, our producer, who always keeps me honest. They are reporting tomorrow.
So we'll be anticipating that as well. Did want to check in on Tesla. Yeah. Did they hold that $100 billion? Let's take a look. The market cap, closing at $102 billion. So good news for Elon Musk. And I have to say, good news for the Bloomberg Business Week team, because guess what's on the cover of Bloomberg Business Week this week?
It's Tesla.
It's Tesla. And a great illustration, literally and figuratively, of how that stock has just gone bananas, I think is the technical term, over the last 6 months, 6 to 9 months, really squeezing the shorts, as they say.
Exactly. And I was just trying to pull up the Volkswagen ADR, because Volkswagen, that's what's interesting. Tesla, in terms of its market cap, Volkswagen, the biggest global automaker that's out there?
I think it's the second business.
Behind
Toyota.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, surpassing Volkswagen in terms of its market size. So that's pretty remarkable. Hey, Netflix, I just want to mention, because that stock was reporting its earnings after the closing bell yesterday. It is your fourth biggest decliner in the S&P 500. And there was some concerns a little bit about some of its growth, kind of mixed feelings across Wall Street. Growth overseas was offset by a slowdown in the U.S. There's rising competition in those streaming services from Disney, Apple, and of course, we've got some still to come. So that stock's seeing some selling pressure, your fourth biggest decliner.
I did want to mention Beyond Meat. We talked a little bit earlier in the show about Impossible, its chief rival. Well, another rival coming in, and that was weighing on the stock today, coming in a bigger way. Talking about Tyson Foods. So Beyond Meat down about 5.3% today. That's after gaining 18% yesterday. And, nobody should fret, because Beyond Meat is still trading at $122 a share, but a little bit more volatility sort of going on here.
All right, let's also talk about IBM, if we may, because that is your fourth biggest gainer in the S&P 500. That stock up 3.4%, and that had to do certainly with earnings. We were breaking those numbers down yesterday, and the stock certainly getting a boost following that quarterly update. Our story reading, IBM turning the corner after Red Hat brings a revenue upside, and we talked about that with our own BI analyst. And, they reported fourth quarter revenue that was stronger than expected, and it was snapping a 5-quarter streak of negative growth. So that was a big change for IBM.
Well, and Red Hat, proving to be, at least so far, a very good acquisition there for Ginny Rometty. TI, we should say, Texas Instruments now trading a little bit lower in the aftermarket. Let's get a quick check on the VIX. Should point out we're going to get deeper into Texas Instruments later on in the show with Anand Srinivasan. The VIX, volatility up just a touch, closing at 12.86.
All right, Dave, you're up. Hi, my name is Dave.
Wilson, where are you? Wilson!
Just what do you think you're doing, Dave?
We're going for the price on Wilson.
Open up the door. It's Dave. Who? Dave.
All right, Dave Wilson is in the house, and he's here with his stock of the day. Ticker is SFBS. What do you got for us, Dave?
Service First Bank Shares. You know, it's one of those names that only exists in corporate America. Service ends with an S, not the usual CE, so it's SERVIS, and there's no space between service and first. So that's the name. Service First owns a bank that has branches in its home state of Alabama and in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and Tennessee. The company was founded in 2005 and went public in 2014. Yes, SFBS is the ticker. Service First shares almost tripled from their initial price through July 2018 when they set a record. They later fell as much as 35% before starting a rally in September. Service First rebound gained momentum today after the release of fourth quarter results. Earnings beat analyst average estimate in a Bloomberg survey by the widest margin in 3.5 years. Revenue exceeded the average projection by the most in 4.5 years. Service First also had a wider net interest margin. That's the gap between deposit and lending rates. The margin went up more than 1/10 of a percentage point from the third quarter to 3.47%. I mean, that's been a key indicator of what's been going on with these banks as they report fourth quarter results. And the figures from Service First sent the shares to their biggest ever gain. They climbed almost 11% on the day.
All right, Dave Wilson, thank you so much. Dave with his stock of the day. And by the way, Volkswagen is the world's largest automaker. Yeah.
Wait, so it's number two, but no, it's number two behind Volkswagen? So what did it leap over?
Who? Nissan? I mean,
no,
Toyota?
Tesla.
It's
now the world's largest?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And Volkswagen was the largest.
All right,
that would be Toyota, number one.
What?
Biggest automaker, Toyota.
All right, we're going to talk more about
Bob
this.
Moon. He's got world and national headlines. Hey, Bob.
Jason, he's cheated before. There's a serious threat to the nation. He could cheat again. One of the arguments being made by House members turned impeachment prosecutors today before the Senate. They say this can't wait until the election.
The president's misconduct cannot be decided at the ballot box, for we cannot be assured that the vote will be fairly won.
The House team continues to lay out its case against what President Trump has called perfection. Bloomberg's Irv Chapman is on Capitol Hill and joins us live now with the latest. Irv.
Bob, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, which drafted the articles of impeachment, Jerry Nadler, has taken up the story of President Trump's pressure campaign against Ukraine.
The facts before us are not in dispute. There are no close calls. The evidence shows that President Trump unlawfully withheld military assistance appropriated by Congress to aid our ally in order to extort that government into helping him with his re-election.
Nadler went on to describe how the president's agents made the successful effort to remove the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, whom they believed stood in the way as she pressed the Ukrainian government to combat corruption. Bob?
Irv Chapman, live on Capitol Hill. Thank you. A judge indicated today he may side with migrants in a lawsuit that alleges extreme overcrowding and inhumane conditions, including freezing temperatures at some Border Patrol facilities in Arizona. The government says lawyers for the migrants haven't proven the Border Patrol violated anybody's constitutional rights. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. I'm Bob Moon.
In the real world, there are no rabbits in hats, crystal balls, or cards that turn into money. Instead, you get business information from top-tier analysts and experts.
What should expectations be for this latest round of negotiations?
That's actually better, isn't it?
They're both trying to say they have the upper hand.
Bloomberg Markets with Paul Sweeney and Lisa Abramowitz. Weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me, I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
What What if you could keep the top economic experts in a conference room next to your office without having to feed them?
Do we need better optics? Do we need some substance? Do CEOs care about ESG?
We have seen quite a lot of stimulus pumped into the system already.
It's the biggest warning yet about the financial risks of climate change.
Now, there are more ways to hear us. Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business, Radio.com, and iHeartRadio apps, and at BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Welcome back to the Dog Show. Up next, we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with this person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive, and now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
The happy dance so common with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Are you interested in a challenging
What if your email was organized by project and not by date? What if everyone looked at the same thing instead of their own inbox? Then it wouldn't be email at all. Forget your fragmented, jumbled inbox and make the change to channels in Slack. Spaces dedicated to individual projects, topics, or teams. All your communication is neatly organized and everyone is on the same page. Slack. Choose a better way to work. Get started at slack.com.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds, or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught, it is in for the right side for the touchdown to Keenan.
Search NFL today.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Want to know a quick, easy way to see if your favorite podcasts have a new episode available? Just go to the home screen on your TuneIn app and see the latest editions under the Your New Episode section. Happy listening.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slams it down.
Get your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
On this week's On the Media, we peel away the many layers of the Warren Sanders sexism sideshow.
The first layer is, can we acknowledge that in a country that has only elected male presidents throughout its history, that gender is a factor?
Also, depressed by politics? We have a plan for that. Listen to On the Media from WNYC. Listen to the On the Media podcast on TuneIn today.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marshawn scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
You can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
Why has J.D. Power ranked Commonwealth Financial Network #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms for the 6th straight time? We think it comes down to one thing: you. Because it's your input and feedback that keeps us focused on what's most important to you and your clients and continually pushes us to be the best we can be. Maybe that's why we receive top marks in every category of the J.D. Power 2019 Advisor Satisfaction Survey. They named us number 1 in client support, number 1 in firm leadership, number 1 in operational support, number 1 in compensation, number 1 in professional development support, and number 1 in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet, keeping an eye on Texas Instruments shares, reporting earnings after the bell. Shares are now lower, down 1.2%. TI forecast revenue for the first quarter, the guidance midpoint 1.6% above the average analyst estimate, but after bouncing around all over the place, TI shares again now lower by 1.7%. Stocks edged higher in volatile trading as investors consider the potential for a virus that emerged in China to eventually dent economic growth. S&P 500 index up by less than 1 point, ending the session at 3321. Nasdaq spent much of the day trading at a record, up 12, ended the day shy of a record at 93.83, up 0.1%. The Dow tumbled really in the final couple of minutes of trading. Dow Industrials down 9, a drop there of 0.1%. 10-year up 3/30 seconds with a yield of 1.76%. Gold today a little changed, up 61 cents the ounce at 15.58, and West Texas Intermediate crude dropped 3%, 56.63 a barrel. Again, recapping, S&P up barely, higher by 1 point. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thanks so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Jason Kelly, Carol Masser, right here on Bloomberg.
She does, very much so, and also has some great ideas when it comes to looking at the markets. Ann Maletti is back with us. Delighted to have her. Senior Portfolio Manager at Wells Fargo Asset Management, $509 billion in assets under management, based in Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio here in New York. Nice to have you here. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you.
What do you, when you make your rounds and you're talking to clients and stuff, what do they want to know? What do they ask you most often?
Most people want to know, when is the bull market going to end? I mean, that's kind of the most widely feared probably topic, right? Because as good as things have been, people worry about when is it going to end.
Does that mean everybody, because for so long we talked about money on the sidelines. I mean, did people finally ultimately, well, I just think I never...
Who are you imitating when you say money on the sidelines like
Mr.
that?
Peanut, he's coming through.
It was good.
It was good. No, I promise you it wasn't you.
Okay.
It was Jason. No, but I mean, I do wonder about, did people finally come into the market, or is there still a lot of hesitation by investors?
There still is a lot of hesitation and a lot of money on the sidelines. When you look at money flows, a lot of money came into money markets, a lot of money still flowed into bond funds, fixed income, but not a lot of money flowed still into the equity markets, even last year. And so the, kind of supply demand really, as you looked into the equity space, still maybe hasn't been met, which is maybe, part of the reason that's driving this market even higher.
Is it going elsewhere, though, to private markets? Jason, I think about how much we talk about. We were just talking about private equity planning to raise even more money this year. Is that where it's going?
Certainly, institutional clients have allocated more money to private investments. And so I think that is, clearly an allocation.
And what about this whole active management question? I mean, we love talking to you about this because you're obviously a big believer in it. You do it. And yet we live in a world that is increasingly passive, I feel like, across all of our lives. But that's a separate, we'll deal with that separately.
That's for the therapy session.
Exactly. But I do wonder how people are responding to the message around active, especially as you said at the top, when they're like, well, when is this bull market going to end? I'm making money pretty easily.
Yeah. So, it's a really great question. And look, active manager, part of the reason why the money flow has been so great to passive is because active managers have struggled to keep up. And when you look at internally Wells Fargo Asset Management, 80% of our strategies, of our active strategies, have outperformed their benchmarks within the last 3 years. So over the last 3 years. So to me, I feel like 80%. That's a significant portion of our active strategies outperforming. I think we've kind of answered the question that active managers can find areas of the market, and some of them by substantial amounts, right? The magnitude in general has been just under 2%, but we have managers in 2019 that outperformed their benchmarks by 10%, some by 4%, right? Significant amounts.
And are they outperforming the broader market, which is why I think at this point everyone's like, okay, let me just go for that so-called diversified basket and just throw it in that way. You're saying yes.
Yes. And again, they're across all different strategies and across different benchmarks. And so depending on where you're allocating your dollars in a lot of different passive spaces, our active managers in those spaces, the majority of them have done well over that longer time period. But I think, look, we just put out our investment insight piece yesterday. And the one thing that we also recognize is clients care about what's going on today. They care about what's going to happen over the next quarter, the next year. But as investors, we're looking at which companies are innovating for the next 3 to 5 years. And, now in my current position too, as heading up all of the active teams, what we want to make sure we're doing is investing in that innovation for our teams. And so when you look at active management, we know that there's a lot of tools that you can place in the hands of active management, in the hands of active managers, and make them even better.
Such as?
So we've developed an internal tool we call Casper, and what it does is over the last 3 to 5 years, it's looked at the way that I've managed money, that other portfolio teams have managed money, and it starts to suggest ideas for your portfolio. And it learns basically from some of the activities that you've done over the past years and from your investment strategies. And from that, what we've done and what I've seen is some of the ideas that end up on our watch list as a bottom-up stock selector are sometimes ending up on the list of that this tool is helping us provide.
And those are names you might not have otherwise thought of because
not.
You just wouldn't have seen it from that sort of twist of the prism.
Possibly not. But then we're also looking at external tools that will help our managers build in efficiencies, right? That can help with natural language processing, that can help table stitch, go back, multiple quarters and pull together an income statement, things that we don't need our analysts wasting time doing.
Right.
So I think, when you look at the returns of, quant managers, they've been somewhat disappointing because there's a lot of people doing them. If you combine the two, you can even get better outcomes. And I think that's what,
you take away layers, you take away maybe wasted time in trying to figure out things. It's amazing where it's all going. Anne, thank you. So nice to see you again. Anne Maletti, she's head of active trading, actually head of active equity, at Wells Fargo Asset Management, based in Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, in our New York studio. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week on Bloomberg Radio.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks ended mixed to slightly higher. Worries returned about the potential economic impact of a respiratory virus originating in China. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 10. The S&P 500 added 1. The NASDAQ Composite gained 13. The home resale market picked up in December. The National Association of Realtors reports a 3.6% rise in sales, to the best pace in nearly 2 years. Low interest rates are attracting buyers. Michigan has agreed to revise a decade-long tax break for GM. In exchange, the automaker committed to spending at least $3.5 billion more over 10 years, including to build electric pickup trucks in Detroit. Big Tech spent heavily on lobbying last year to battle charges of unfair competition and shape privacy legislation. Facebook boosted spending the most, followed by Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft. Google parent Alphabet cut spending.
Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
3, 2, 1. Oh no. Which button am I?
When every second counts, you can't wing it.
Guys, a little help up here?
In a home fire, you may have less than 2 minutes to get out. So make a family home fire escape plan. Then practice home fire drills at least twice a year so everyone knows what to do when they hear. Prepare your family at ready.gov/fire drill. Brought to you by FEMA, the Ad Council, and Make Safe Happen.
The market's in focus every business day. The P&L Podcast with Paul Sweeney and Lisa Abramowitz.
Are there some sectors that you want to have more or less exposure to?
What's behind this engine of gains?
Analysis of the day's Wall Street action.
The U.S. market looks relatively safe.
From Bloomberg Intelligence, Bloomberg Opinion, and influential newsmakers.
Ward McCarthy joins us right now.
P&L with Paul Sweeney and Lisa Abramowitz. Listen today on Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Are you interested in a challenging...
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards at the goal line. It's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds, or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slams it down.
Catch your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back, deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Describe him. He's also certified organic and free range. Rich puts the cap back on everything. The toothpaste, the olive oil, the shampoo, everything. He lets his 10-year-old nephew beat him at virtual tennis, even though he can straight up slay his 10-year-old nephew in virtual tennis. When the toilet paper is running low, Rich replaces the roll on the actual holder, not just on the back of the toilet. Rich is texting and driving. Rich? No. What are you doing, Rich? I was just telling everyone how great you are. Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're fierce. You take care of business and don't hold back. Taking care of your health shouldn't be any different. You know when something's off. Don't ignore symptoms like fatigue, joint pain, and rashes. Listen to your body. It could be lupus. We're here to help you take control. Learn how at BeFierceTakeControl.org. Brought to you by the Lupus Foundation of America and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Experts like to be part of Bloomberg surveillance.
What does the new Europe look like?
For the same reason we're recommending it to you.
Everything you thought would happen is happening.
Weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
So Carol Massar, consumer business, private equity. Yes, please. I'm in.
God, are you so happy or what?
So happy.
My God, happy little camper. We're going to talk about this in just a moment. We'll get to that in just a few seconds. Let's get back to your top business stories. Some of the news after the closing bell, including some earnings, Charlie Bell.
Indeed, earnings, breaking business news. I'm in for that too. Texas Instruments out with a sales and profit forecast for the current period that was in line with estimates, indicating that purchasing by electronics makers is poised to improve amid progress resolving the U.S.-China trade dispute. TI shares, they have been bouncing around after hours, but right now Texas Instruments is down by just about 1.6%. Mixed session, the Dow tumbled in the final few minutes of trading, giving up gains, have been higher for much of the day, ended with a 9-point loss, down by less than 0.1%. S&P 500 index eking out a gain, flirting with a record, up by 1 point, little change there. NASDAQ higher by 12 for the NASDAQ Composite Index today. That was a gain of just about 0.1%. The 10-year up to 30 seconds yield 1.76%. Gold little changed, up 60 cents the ounce. An ounce of the precious metal now at $15.58. Crude West Texas Intermediate down 3.3%, $56.42 a barrel. The World Economic Forum's underway in Davos, Switzerland. Bloomberg Radio and Television are there, where we caught up with U.S. Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao, who talked about the timetable for getting the Boeing 737 MAX jet flying again.
This needs to be a collaborative effort. We are working with international aviation authorities. They need to work with us. We need to work with them, because if other aviation authorities don't have the confidence and don't allow the Boeing 737s to fly, then we cannot fly.
Indeed, Boeing shares did move lower today, dropping by just about 1.4%. So again, recapping, turned out to be a mixed Wednesday, with the S&P higher by a point, little change there. The Dow down 9, NASDAQ up 12, a gain of 0.1%. I'm Charlie Pelleton. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much for that update. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week on this Wednesday. Carol Massar along with Jason Kelly. This is Bloomberg Radio.
All right, so we talked a lot about private equity, all the money going there. We also talked a lot about consumers and consumer brands. Let's go to the nexus of that. Steve Leibowitz is here with us, co-founder and managing partner at Brand Velocity Partners, based up in Greenwich, Connecticut, here with us in New York City. Great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me today.
All right, so we talk so much about kind of cutting through and getting to consumers. Marketing and money, obviously, are big pieces of that. You're focused a lot on sort of working on those together. What's the secret sauce here?
Well, I think the secret sauce is a lot of private equity is oriented towards finance. You got a lot of finance people, and the basic,
a lot of spreadsheets.
A lot of spreadsheets. And the basic premise of Brand Velocity Partners is that you don't build great companies through spreadsheets. You build them through great products and through getting the word out through marketing. The companies are cool and interesting. They've got great products. Then we're interested in it. But they often don't have that marketing muscle. So that's why we wanted to focus there, because you got to get the word out.
Right. Not every brand, though. Like, how do you guys pick and choose about who you say has just got that special something that, you know, put the brand or marketing machine behind it and it's just going to take off?
Authenticity. That's really the key.
What's authentic today?
Authentic means that the brand really stands for something and it doesn't feel phony. Like, we bought a business that's a military footwear business. They're the number one supplier to the U.S. military, and their boots have been on soldiers' feet going back to the Vietnam War. So you talk about credibility, that's like real authenticity. We're looking for that.
Yeah.
And are you looking to take that and make it more mass market?
Yes, we are. I wouldn't say you go jump and go right to sell those in Walmart. That's probably not the way you do it. But there's tremendous brand loyalty, and that again gets into the authenticity. So we're looking for a brand which really means something to the people who know about it.
Okay.
And then you kind of edge out from there to reach out to more consumers.
And so we're talking about Original Footwear. You just did this deal. I mean, this was
That's
just announced this week. How do you find a deal like that? Is it hiding in plain sight, or do you find it through a process? Because that's always one of the big questions with private equity, right, is the so-called, the elusive proprietary deal. Like, how does this get to you?
You're 100% right. So far, everything that we've looked at has been proprietary. And, proprietary may not exist with really big private equity deals. The issue there, when you're dealing with auction processes, is the prices are very high.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we've been able to find stuff. You reach out to companies, word of mouth. Again, like when you have a special sauce, in our case, it's really the focus on supercharging the marketing. If an owner really wants to stay on and they want to keep a meaningful piece in their business and get a second bite at the apple, then our story is very appealing to them.
Well, and I'm interested also by your team because, some of your partners, they've worked at WME or Endeavor, I guess formerly known as WME, IMG, MSG, the Mets, we'll leave that for another day. But, also in high-level communications as well as sports and the more financial side as well.
Well, the idea of the firm, it's a good point you raised. We really wanted to be differentiated. And the issue is with a lot of private equity is the finance guys take everything.
Right.
It's all finance people. They sometimes have an operating partner. But the finance people take the whole pie. And the finance people tend to be a bit arrogant, in my experience.
What? No.
Sometimes. But the idea is that finance people are great at the spreadsheets and the investment, but not the marketing. And so we need to have people that's what they do. And the finance guy can't play a marketing guy. So that's what the firm is about, and bring that expertise in and make it part of our DNA.
How much dry powder do you guys have right now to put to work?
Well, we raise capital basically for the deals.
So deal by deal.
So deal by deal.
Deal by deal. And, what I would say is that capital is a commodity.
Right.
There are so many private equity funds out there, family offices, so much money. The scarce commodity is the good deal, and being able to do something special with the good deal, that's really where it is. So we're focusing our energies on really finding the good deals.
So more deals to come this year. What's the sweet spot when you think about how many deals you do a year based on this model?
I would say 2 or 3. I think beyond that, it gets to be a lot,
right?
Because there's a tremendous amount of work, as you know, that goes into the process.
Right. All right. Good stuff. Well, keep us posted. Eager to see what you do with this company and where else you put your interest, because as you mentioned, a lot of money to be put to work, and a lot of brands out there that probably could use a little bit of help to, again, sort of cut through the noise for consumers right now. Steve Leibowitz is co-founder, managing partner at Brand Velocity Partners.
All right, coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about Apple. That stock closing just a hair higher, up about 0.4%, but an interesting story that caught our attention earlier about them to begin assembling a new low-cost iPhone coming up maybe next month. And this is something a lot of folks have been pushing for.
What's old is new again in some ways. They've experimented this. We'll see if they can get it right this time. Let's get to Bob Moon. He's got world national headlines. Hey, Bob.
Jason, 24 hours of arguments over the course of 3 days. House members turned impeachment prosecutors have started making their case for removing President Trump from office. It was a quiet and somber chamber as they began.
Other than voting on whether to send our men and women to war, there is, I think, no greater responsibility before you than the one before you now.
On both sides of the aisle, senators were seen taking notes, especially 4 key moderate Republicans who could tip the vote against Trump: Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Mitt Romney, and Omar Alexander. At this hour, the topic is the role of Rudy Giuliani after Joe Biden declared for the presidential nomination. Bloomberg's Irv Chapman brings us up to date now, live on Capitol Hill. Irv.
Bob, the argument was taken up by Representative Sylvia Garcia, who rebutted allegations that Biden, as vice president, went after a Ukrainian prosecutor to thwart an investigation into the Ukrainian company that employed his son.
Vice President Biden explained he placed an ultimatum to the Ukrainian president to remove the corrupt prosecutor general to ensure that the taxpayer money would be used appropriately. The vice president's actions were consistent with official U.S. policy, as well as the opinions of the international community.
That Ukrainian president was then defeated for re-election. President Trump's emissaries gave new President Zelensky anti-corruption high marks, but President Trump rejected their views in order to pressure Zelensky to investigate the Bidens. Bob?
Herb Chapman live on Capitol Hill. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. I'm Bob Moon.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their business strategically. Yet, the most competitive managers in the market know, with the right partner and a flexible operating platform, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
Determination and operational strength are both essential factors for growth in asset management. I'm Steve Meyer, President, Head of SEI's Investment Manager Services Division. We know that disruptive forces create opportunities around the world. If you see potential in change, our industry specialists will maximize SEI's integrated platform of data and risk management, global investment operations, compliance support, and investor services to position your asset management business for success. Come grow with us.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize change.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
In-depth.
Hello, I'm your captain for today's Virgin Atlantic flight. Please drop everything and pay close attention to the following announcement. The sail is now on. Our crew are ready to take your bags and stresses away. The cocktails are ready to serve, the movies are loaded, and we're all set for takeoff to the Caribbean. So, take your seat in our award-winning economy class. We're ready to go when you are.
The Virgin Atlantic sail. Fly amazing for less. For more details, visit virginatlantic.com.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
10 years ago, the book The New Jim Crow helped ignite a movement against mass incarceration. This week on the New Yorker Radio Hour, I'll talk with the author, Michelle Alexander.
Millions of people have been relegated to a permanent second-class status. It wasn't a message people were eager to hear, but I think it is today easier to see.
Listen to this episode of the New Yorker Radio Hour on TuneIn today.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards at the goal line. It's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds, or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June. featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA On Demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
Along the goal line, Martin scores! He takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
And a move, and a shot, they score!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today. 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We're continuing to keep an eye on Texas Instruments. It reported earnings after the bell. Shares are now down by 1.1%. It delivered a sales and profit forecast for the current period in line with estimates, indicating the purchasing by electronics makers is poised to improve amid progress resolving the China-U.S. trade dispute. Again, TI shares trading lower, down by 1.1%. U.S. stocks edged higher with the S&P eking out a gain in volatile trading. At the end of the session, it was up by 1 point. Investors are considering the potential for that virus that emerged in China to eventually dent economic growth. The Dow tumbled right at the close. It fell 9 points, down less than 0.1%, while NASDAQ higher by 12, a gain there of just about 0.1%. 10-year up 230 seconds, yield 1.76%. Gold higher, little changed, up 70 cents the ounce right now, $15.58. West Texas Intermediate crude dropping 3.8%, $56.16 for a barrel of WTI. So again, recapping, little changed on the S&P 500 index, up today by less than 1 point. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you very much. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week, and this is Bloomberg Radio.
So we are all intrigued by the twists and the turns of Apple, its products, whether we're sticking things in our ears or looking at our phones or watching TV, whatever it is. And we also know that there is one guy we have to turn to get the latest and greatest, a one-stop shop for all things Apple. Mark Gurman, tech reporter for Bloomberg, joins us from our LA bureau. All right, Mark, the low-cost phone, they're going to try this again, I guess, or in a different and bigger way. Tell us what's going on at Apple.
Well, first of all, that intro is too kind. But in terms of the phone, yes, they're giving it another shot. 4 years after they launched the iPhone SE, their last attempt at a considerably lower priced phone, they're doing it again, and they're going back to the same playbook. They're basically going to use the same hardware design they used from a model from several years prior. They're going to put in a faster processor, perhaps better camera, lower the price, put in a new box, do a whole marketing campaign around it, and hope it brings in additional revenues and users.
So what's this going to cost?
Probably around $400. I would say $350 at the very minimum, $450 at the high end. But I think it's going to be $400, and that means it's $600 less than the.
I was going to say that is substantially less. I mean, it feels like we've just gotten used to this idea of like, okay, new iPhone, that's going to be $1,000. I mean, which is insane to think about. I think on the face of it, and yet a lot of people are buying it. So, what does this do market-wise? This obviously widens the availability to some extent from a budget perspective. But what are they going for here?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to do as much as they think it's going to do, or what investors might immediately think it's going to do. I mean, you could already get much older phones for that price or even less. The iPhone SE is still being sold for like $300, $350, depending on where you're going to pick one up. There are better phones for just $50, $100, $200 more, even some of the newer iPhone generations from just 1 or 2 or 3 years ago, too.
Hey, Mark, this has always, I feel like, been about going after those emerging markets where there's other choices and certainly lots of less expensive choices when it comes to smartphones. Is that what this is about? And will it kind of move the needle when it comes to selling a cheaper iPhone in emerging markets?
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think that Apple still doesn't understand what people in emerging markets actually want. People in India and China and developing parts of Europe, they don't want what we're describing is basically an iPhone 8 with a newer processor. They want a cheaper iPhone 11 or 11 Pro. These people want the best cameras. They want the best and brightest and largest screens. And you're just not going to get that from Apple at $400. But where you are going to get it is potentially from Samsung, from Huawei, from Xiaomi. So until Apple comes out with an iPhone with the latest technology at that price, I really don't think it's going to make as big of an impact as some might think it will.
So, Mark, we're talking about Apple in a year that they're also, it sounds like, going to roll out 5G handsets. That seems to be something that everyone is paying attention to. Tell us what we need to know about that side of the equation, because that feels like a reason, or a real reason for lots of folks to upgrade. Agree? I mean, certainly Apple thinks that, right?
I agree with you. I think that the next two major iPhone cycles, so 2020 and 2021, are going to be considerable in terms of people upgrading. If you remember, the iPhone 11, same design as last year or 2 years ago and a year before that. So we're moving into a new design cycle, which always brings in a lot of people. But now we're also at basically a 4 to 5 year upgrade cycle. And the last big one was 2014 to 2016 with the iPhone 6 line. Mm-hmm. And so it's time for a ton of people to just upgrade. So I think you're going to see an influx there.
I am so waiting. I mean, how much of we're talking about a lot of people you think are waiting for this?
I think so. I think 5G, even though it's very much a niche thing technology-wise, in terms of people talking about it, it's sort of become a topic of conversation in the more real-world space. It's something that people are talking about, waiting for. I mean, I hear people saying, "Oh, I'm waiting for the 5G," or they mispronounce it G5, iPhone, all the time.
They're just talking about their jet at that point.
Exactly.
So, do you have any sense yet of what the 5G iPhone will do? Like, what is 5G going to deliver specifically to the iPhone that maybe we haven't anticipated, or is it just, as we say here at Bloomberg, more, better, faster?
Yeah, my biggest concern with this 5G cycle, the initial one, is, it is your, more, better, faster tagline. It's basically going to do nothing new. You'll be able to get apps a little bit faster. Videos will download more quickly. Websites will, load faster. But you don't see anyone complaining about the speed of their websites loading on their iPhone. Right, the problem that people have with these phones is network congestion. I know you guys are in New York, and there'll be a lot of times where you just can't get a good signal. Not because the Verizon or AT&T service is slow; it's because there's just so many people there. And I guess maybe until a lot of people get on 5G, you might see faster speeds. But 3 years from now in New York City, you're still going to have the same problems you have today.
So when we get that new iPhone later this year, I just have to figure out how much I have to start saving. How much is that phone going to cost? It's going to easily be another $1,000 or what?
Yeah, those ones will be the $1,000 plus models for sure.
All right. What's the biggest story we're not talking enough about when it comes to Apple, Mark?
Biggest story we're not talking about enough is their stance on privacy and what the realities are. The reality is, if a government wants access to your iPhone data, they're going to get that data. But there's not so much that could be done here when you're moving into legal issues, and we really have to figure out what the real situation is, how these companies are getting into it, who the government contractors are, and how Apple's working to combat this.
All right. Well, we're going to leave it there. Always good to catch up with you. Mark Gurman, tech reporter for Bloomberg out in Los Angeles, giving us the update on all things Apple. And this is going to be a big year. Clearly, last year was certainly a big year for the stock of Apple. It'd be interesting to see how much the iPhone does continue to dominate the conversations around where this company goes next.
Well, especially since how many conversations over the last few years saying, okay, they've got to diversify. They have to diversify away from just being so reliant when it comes to the top and bottom lines on the smartphone. But you know what? It's been a great engine. And even as they slowly diversify elsewhere, with streaming this year and so on and so forth, it's okay. Investors are all in on it.
Well, Mark Gurman teed up very nicely what we're going to talk about in just a few minutes, which is security, privacy.
Yes.
Not a lot of security and privacy for the world's richest man when it comes to his phone, apparently hacked by the Saudis. what the implications of that are, what some of the story underneath it is. We're going to have that coming up. We're also going to hear from James Gorman, Morgan Stanley CEO. He joined our team earlier in Davos.
Yep, and also Texas Instruments. They were out with their earnings. Right now the stock's down about 0.5% here in the after hours. So we'll dig into that quarter, what it means maybe for some of the other chip makers. Of course, Intel, as our producer reminded me, reporting tomorrow. And then we're going to talk about the fitness market, which I feel like 2020 is turning out to be all things fitness.
Yeah, I can't wait to catch up with Rick Stollmeyer. He's the founder and CEO of MindBody. That's the guts, really, of the whole boutique fitness movement. That's all ahead. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week, watching us on YouTube. This is Bloomberg.
Boredom, fitness enemy number one. So don't just run. Run, run, mix it up, skip, run, skip, run. Give yourself a lift, mix it up, lift, mix it up, run, lift, splash, skip, lift, run. It's crunch time, skip, mix it up, run, mix it out of boxing class, skip, run, splash, skip, run. Mix it up at Virgin Active and get stronger, fitter, faster. Join now for 12 months and pay nothing until March. T's and C's apply. Run, mix it up, skip, mix it, run. Mix it.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards at the goal line. It's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds.